So the formula is in this box, and essentially what it's saying is that the point x1, y1 and the point x2, y2 are endpoints of a line segment. And to find the midpoint, all you're doing is doing x1 plus x2 divided by 2, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. And essentially you're just finding the average. Because when you find the average of something, let's say we were finding the average of the numbers 7, 9, 12, 15, and 20. What do we do with those numbers to find the average?
Add them up and divide by 5.
Yeah, because there's 5 numbers. We would add all these numbers together, make my commas into plus signs, and then we would divide them all by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because there's 5 numbers there. So to find the midpoint of a line segment, essentially all you're doing is you're finding the average of the x values and the average of the y values. Because when you have 2 endpoints, how many x values do you have? 2, right? You have 2 points, that means there's 2 x values. So we add them together, and because we added 2 things together, we're dividing it by 2. Same thing with the y. We have 2 points. That means there's 2 y values, so we add our y values together, we added 2 things together, we divide by 2. That's all you're essentially doing when you're finding the midpoint, is you're just finding the average of those x and y values. Okay? And that gives you the middle. So and that's what I just explained in that paragraph, okay? We're just finding the average. We're adding the x values and dividing by 2, and we're adding the y values together and dividing by 2. So we take a look at this example. For each set of coordinates, find the coordinates of the midpoint of the line segment joining the 2 points. So I'm finding the midpoint. So again, I'm just finding the average. So what comes first in a point again, x or y? X. Okay, so it might help if you label 2. This is x, that's y. This is x, and that is y. We'll find the average. We're finding the average of the x's, so I'm going to add my 2 x values together, divide by 2. Add my 2 y values together, divide by 2. Okay. And then clean it up. What is negative 5 plus 11? What's 7 plus 3? And then clean it up one last step. What is 6 over 2 simplified down to? And what is 10 over 2 simplified down to? 5. So the midpoint, the exact middle in between those 2 values is 3, 5. In those 2 points. You know, when you find the average, it's kind of what you're doing. You're finding that middle number of all the numbers you're given. So to find the midpoint, you're just taking the average. You will see some examples here in a second. But yes, that might happen. We take a look at B. Again, we want to find the midpoint, so I'm going to start my formula. Then add our x values. So if we're adding the 2 x values together, that's going to be what in the top of that first fraction? 8 plus 5, heard someone say. And then we divide by what? 2. Okay, and then we average our y values together. What are we going to add, Parker? Good, we're going to add 12 and 4 together, and then divide by 2. So when we clean it up, negative 8 plus 5 is what? Negative 3. And 12 plus 4 is 16. Clean it up some more. Does negative 3 over 2 simplify? No. We can leave it as negative 3 over 2. What's negative 3 over 2 as a decimal? Yeah, I don't care how you write it. You can write it as leave it as negative 3 over 2. You can write it as negative 1.5. I don't care. I think it's easier just to leave it as negative 3 over 2. But you might check it in your calculator, and your calculator will give you negative 1.5. That's totally fine. I'm not too picky about fractions and decimals unless the directions specify. Okay? And what is 16 over 2 simplified down to? So the midpoint, the middle of that line segment is at negative 3 over 2, 8, or negative 1.5. Questions over that? In your you're not given the formula. So you have to remember that process. If you just remember you're just taking the average, that's all you're doing. Sometimes there's a line segment graph for you and you need to find the midpoint. Make sure you read the directions carefully because sometimes you just see a line graph in the coordinate plane and we're like, oh, I'm finding distance. Okay, and we find the distance rather than the midpoint. So just make sure you read the directions carefully. But it's the same exact process. What might be helpful is if we just identify what the endpoints are. So I'm going to give you one endpoint on the segment. 4, -2. 4, -2, that's one endpoint, that guy right there. What's the other endpoint? -5, -5, that's the other endpoint. So I think it's helpful to write my endpoints down, so then it's no different than what we did on this. Find the midpoint between those points. So, set my formula. And we're taking the average of the x values, so what two numbers are going to add together? 4, -5. So here's the thing. You know how the second number is negative? So you can put plus -5. That's kind of awkward, right? So we're adding a negative, that's the same as doing what? Yeah, subtracting. So when the second number is negative, you can just leave it as that, 4 - 5. You can write it as 4 plus -5, then it just gets awkward because there's lots of different signs in it. Okay? So adding a negative, same as subtracting. So you can just write it as 4 - 5. Divide by 2. And what's that second fraction going to look like? What are we going to add together for the second fraction? 2 and -5. Again, you just do -2 - 5. Divide by 2. Clean it up. What is 4 - 5? And what's -2 - 5? Can we simplify either of those fractions? No. So you're done. Again, if you plug in your calculator tells you -0.5 and then -3.5, that's totally fine. I'm not picky about that, unless the directions specify. Questions over that? One more. Same kind of thing. We have our line segment. Someone give me one of those endpoints. Careful, the positive 3. Very good. And then what's the other one? -5, 1. That's the other endpoint. So just use those endpoints to find the midpoint. That's my formula. Okay. Louis, what are we going to add in that first fraction? Yeah, which values first? Good. 3 plus 5. Yes, that is good. And then Louis, we're going to divide by what? 2. Then we do the same thing for the y. Colton, what are we going to add together for that second fraction? Good. I like how you said -1. And then Colton, what are we going to divide by? And then clean it up some more. 3 plus 5 is what? And then -3 minus 1 is what? 4. Keep cleaning it up. Our last step. What's 8 over 2? Simplify down to 8 over 2 is 4. And -4 over 2 is 2. And we're done. Questions over that? Again, all you're doing is just finding the average. Add your x values, divide by 2. Add your y values together, divide by 2. And you have your midpoint.